So this week on Adventures in Astronomy, I thought we'd talk about halos. Not those ones, those are rather easy to lose, but star halos are less easy to remove. So in today's episode, I'm going to go over to the machine and show you my techniques for removing halos. Now, most star halos are created by the quality of your filters and the filter tolerances that happen during manufacturing. The problem comes with reflections from the glass or the quality of the glass installed on the actual filters. In this demonstration, we're using beta filters, which are pretty decent in the main. And unless you're able to afford the astronomical prices of Astrodon and Chroma filters, and they don't always guarantee halo-free stars either, then the likelihood is you're going to be dealing with halos in your astro images somewhere along the lines. In my case, I use beta filters, and they're pretty decent. They're average, middle-of-the-road filters, and they've done me well over lots of years. But I have had halos to deal with, particularly in the OIII filter, which is often the one most guilty of showing halos generally, regardless of manufacturer. On screen, we've got several nights of processing of the Pelican Nebula. We've got the hydrogen alpha, where nothing's been done whatsoever to the image, and it's quite nice data. But unfortunately, when we get to the OIII signal, we have a massive star halo here, which is pretty unsightly. And even in our sulfur, we've got a slight edge of a halo there as well. So other than that, the data looks rather quite nice, even unprocessed. So our first job is just to combine these channels together, and I'm not going to do anything more fancy than a basic channel combination. I know we can go in and do all kinds of fancy tools on color, but I'm just going to do an SHO image, and I'm just going to put all of that together. And then let's have a look at what we've got. And if we zoom in on that area, we've still got that rather nasty looking halo. So my technique for dealing with this is first to start with a wonderful script provided by SetiAstro. And I'm going to link in the description of the video his video, which goes through how to use this. It's a really good script, and it comes under SetiAstro Halo Be Gone. But I don't tend to use this on a linear image like this, because it tends to have a negative effect across the image. That's what I found. So the first thing that I actually do is remove the stars. So I go into Star Exterminator, or you might have StarNet, generate the star image, and just throw that on, and let's remove the stars from the image. So now we've got our image, which doesn't have a halo in that area, does have a little bit of a smudge, but we won't see that when the star is put back. So if we now have a look at this image now, we've still got this fairly ugly looking star here with a massive halo. So if we bring this script back in and we go to SetiAstro Halo Be Gone, and in the first instance, I tend to just try around the low settings. I'm going to click linear data because it is linear data, and I'm just going to execute it, and it's going to go through its process. And already that is 1,000,000 times better than what it was. Most of the halo's gone. We see some stars actually being put back into the image. If we go back a few steps to how it was, that was before. Let's just take that over to there, and in fact, if we just put this at the same image scale, so there it is before, and if we move this forward a few steps, there it is after. You can already see a huge amount of difference already, but there is still some halo around the edges, and I'm still not quite happy with that version of the image. So my next step of where I go is to actually use the clone stamping tool. So go into processes and go to the clone stamp tool. We will find this tool here, and you click on the image to activate it. And if you hold down Command on a Mac, I think it's Control on a PC, you're going to get a sample area that you can work from to start cloning and working a little bit more. Now, a couple of settings in the clone stamp that are really, really important. Number one, you want your softness as high as you can, because the softness really dictates how harsh it's going to be between what you're cloning out and the pixels next to it. And then the opacity, I tend to go right down. If you go too high up, then what you're going to find is, it has a very harsh effect. So as an example, let's just take this star here. If I click and start clone stamping that out, you can see it's not doing a whole lot, but it is actually having an effect. And the more I rub over it, it's having a very gentle effect. Now, if I just go backwards over here on the clone stamp, it's gone back to how it was. So the opacity is really important, that is on quite low. And then, of course, you move the radius up and down. Let's start on the outside edge with a radius of 4. And I'm going to zoom in even more. I'm just going to start working very gently around the edge. And because it's on such a low opacity, that's really allowing me to make very subtle adjustments. So my first job will be to just go around the outside of this on a very low setting. And I'm not really affecting anything. Sample from over there, not really affecting anything too badly. It's having a very, very subtle effect, but it does require quite a bit of patience to do this process. It's not something that you can do in a couple of seconds. And I'm just going to sample from over here and just carry on going around. I'm going to keep working on this image so that you've got a before and after, because you don't want to spend 5 minutes watching me just do this. But as you then tend to go further in, I tend to decrease the radius to start working on maybe these areas here. Might even lower the opacity down just a tad, maybe down to 0.9 or even 0.8. Let's see what that does. I'm going to really zoom in now. And so when I start to work on these areas, it's having a very, very, very subtle effect. So we're going to join the video when I've done that process all the way through, and let's see where we get. Okay, so we're back, and I've got something that I'm fairly happy with. I could have still done a little bit more work, particularly around this area, but for the sake of this video, I'm fairly happy with what I've got. If we just go to before the clone stamping, you can see even with the Halo Be Gone, it's got still more halo around the outside. So the clone stamping has allowed me to just subtly remove a little bit more of that, and I've now got something that I'm quite happy with. If you felt that that was too aggressive from the stars that you had before, and this is our original star image with the halo on screen, and you wanted to do a combination between these two images, you could do that into PixelMath. So let's find our PixelMath into there. And what I could do is just say our SHO image here. I could use that and times 0.6 of it. So in other words, put 60% of it into this image. So if I throw this action on there, what I've got is a version between the two. Actually, that's really nice as well, but I think I prefer this because it just looks a little bit more natural. So I'm gonna stick with the one that we've done and the one on clone stamping. So now that all that's left to do is to put the images back together. So I'm going to use these wonderful tools from Luca Matico. I think he might have got them from Bill Blanchard. So I'm just going to throw stars for rescreening onto the star image and minimize that. And then I'm going to go starless. Whoops. I'm going to throw the starless onto the rescreen for that. Minimize there. So we've got starless and stars unstretched. And then I'm just going to simply go into rescreen, check these numbers. Actually, that's not a 1, it's 11, because you might notice down here I've got the original image with all of my data on, and I'm just taking it all into a separate page. So let's just edit these so that they're correct. That says 11 and that image is 11 as well. Create a new target image. Whoops, always click the wrong button there. It's actually the square that you want. And there we go. We have got, let's just do an auto stretch. We now have our image back. And if we zoom back in on that star area, it's now looking a lot less halo-y. If we compare it to the pre-work that we've done and just move into that area, you can see we've got a huge halo, and now that halo is much more under control. So I think I'm fairly happy with that as a result. I could have done even more work. Like I said, it's definitely something that takes you time. But I think at scale, if you're not pixel peeping, we zoom out a little bit because that's the full scale of the image. So at that scale, to me, to my eyes, that looks pretty decent. If we just go at the same scale, the halo is definitely noticeable in this image and a lot less noticeable in this image. So job done. I hope you found today's video useful. My name's Martin. You've been watching Adventures in Astronomy. Thanks for tuning in.